This happened last Tuesday. I was recovering from surgery and had a few days in the hospital. Luckily I had my phone with me and a 10-foot charge cord, so once I was conscious again I plugged my phone into the outlet next to the fourth stand/vitals monitor and got to work catching up on some Netflix shows. A while later the nurse walks in, asks how I'm doing, starts to check my vitals, and she gasps and turns deathly pale. She screams "Patrice!" at the top of her lungs, and another nurse comes running in. The first nurse, I don't remember her name, sorry, explains to Patrice that there is a bunch of blood in my saline 4 line and that I am not getting my fluids and she doesn't know how this could happen. Patrice realizes that the 4 line full of blood is actually my charge cord, which happens to be dark red in color. Patrice told me very sternly that I am not allowed to use the outlets meant for medical equipment, and then showed me where the outlets meant for personal use were located in the room. And the first nurse suggested that next time I have surgery, perhaps I would consider bringing a different color cord with me to the recovery room. DL doctor used a red charge cord at the hospital and the nurse thought my saline 4 had filled with blood. Tifu by getting a lap dance. This actually took place several years ago and it didn't occur to me until a couple of days ago. You guys may appreciate it. While working the graveyard shift I was enjoying my weekend and staying up overnight to not change my schedule. I was bored, everyone I knew was sleeping or whatnot. However, I wanted to socially interact with people. Most bars were closed, so the next logical thing to do QT the time. Me being like in my early 20s at the time was to go to the strip club. So I went, sat down and was sipping on a beer. I began talking with a dancer who was a bit older. We were hanging out, but then, what I thought was the most attractive one working got on stage and she actually knew how to dance. So I stood up, took some ones out and walked to the stage. She was doing her thing, tweaking in her thong facing away from me, and I was throwing ones around. She turned around and I leaned in to say, "Hey, come find me after, I'd like to get a lap dance." At this point I noticed her eyes get big and she quickly stood up and ran backstage. Leaving her money on the stage, which aside from her running away seemed extra odd that she left all her money. I go sit down seeming a little confused. Security came over and starts asking me WTF I did. I honestly had no clue, everything seemed in par for me. Eventually security said they will go find out what happened and walk about. Shortly later the dancer and security come out. She walks over and sits down and says one of the worst sentences I'll ever hear at a strip club. "Okay, so I don't know if you remember me, and I hope you don't. I'm your cousin, insert name, I'm the daughter of, insert and I never sees name." I was shocked, so embarrassed. DL, doctor, went to the strip club when I was bored one night, unknowingly tipped my cousin who was dancing on stage and proceeded to ask her for a lap dance. Mod, sorry if this breaks the incest rule in your opinion, seemed like this one was probably fair for Tifu since it wasn't incest. My workplace requires some yearly trainings, one just came up and it reminded me of this. I work for a government agency. Like most government employees, ours is often underfunded and understaffed. While we often have all of the equipment necessary to perform our jobs, some of the computers, software, etc. are not recent, which can make our jobs more difficult. I also sit in a cube, and there are a few dozen people on our floor. Sound travels, so you can often hear what's going on a few cubes away. We often have all sorts of phone calls and whatnot, so a lot of people have earpieces for the phone. While you can allegedly get one issued to you, I think this is pretty rare, so most people bring one from home. I have one from an earlier job, but even so, a 10 headset works fine. I had one coworker who was on the phone a great deal, hours a day, and had asked for a headset, but hadn't been issued one. We'll call them Leslie. Then, we all were instructed to complete a training on our computers, which consisted of a couple hours of videos. Most people use their headsets. Leslie started doing the training with the computer speakers. To be fair, Leslie did this at a pretty low volume, but still loud enough that it was audible to adjacent cubes. Someone complained, and Leslie's boss came over to ask Leslie to use a headset. Leslie responded, "I've asked for one, but I haven't been issued one yet." Leslie's boss asked Leslie to bring one from home, to which Leslie responded that they couldn't be made to pay to provide their own work equipment, and that the training was due the next day. So, Leslie finished the training that afternoon, without headphones. After that, Leslie was miraculously issued a headset. Hey guys. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. I used to manage a oil change shop. I was actually working by myself that day as I had the slowest store in the company. I had an older Chinese lady, probably mid to late 60s, pull into my parking lot in a decent-looking car. She spoke some English but you could tell it wasn't her first language. She seemed upset. Now this happened at least like 8 or 9 years ago, so I don't remember specifically what was said, but this is roughly how it went down. Me: "Hi, how are you?" Lady: "Can you help me?" Me: "Sure, what can I do for you?" Lady: "Guy said car is junk, and will give me 2,000 for it and I'd what to do." So I take a gander outside and see her car. It was a 5 or 6-year-old VW Jetta. Not new by any means but looks worth more than 2K. Me: "What's wrong with it?" Lady: "It's running rough, and the door squeaks." So I take a look under the hood and the mass airflow sensor was unplugged. Plugged it back in and applied some WD-40 to the hinges. Start it back up and it runs perfect. I went back inside and told her I fixed it, but I wanted to blue book her car for her so she knew what it was worth. Car came up and is being worth about $7,500. I told her that guy was trying to rip you off and not to trust him. She told me that a guy she brought it to told her that the engine was junk and was only going to get worse, and that her door was about to fall off. Whoever this was clearly saw she knew nothing about her car and would be easy to manipulate, and tried to flip her car for a nice payday. I told her your car is fine and if you need anything you come and see me. She started crying and gave me a hug and went on her way. Didn't charge her a dime. Coolest moment in my many years of customer service. I've always found it nice to keep some succulents by the windowsill. They are easy to care for and add a little greenery to my room. Back in October I decided to spend $20 on a set of 4 small succulents. When they arrived, I organized them carefully on my windowsill as planned. I know succulents don't need much water, so I'd only water them once every 3 or so weeks. I found it odd that the water did not really disintegrate into the soil, instead floating as a little pool at the top, but I figured they were just small and didn't need much water. I left school for a month over Christmas break and was worried how my succulents would hold up without water. Much to my delight, when I came back, they looked as healthy as the day I bought them. How resilient of a plant, I thought to myself. I continued watering the succulents for months, each month giving just that right amount of water that would float at the surface of the soil like a pool and then disintegrate. I must be doing a great job, I thought, because they still look great 8 months after purchase. I took real internal pride in my little succulents. Until the day my girlfriend told me they were fake. "These are plastic," she said when she tried to water them for me for the first time. "Look, if you look closely you can see the glue." Wait. What? After a quick moment of introspection, I thought back to all the evidence. I confirmed on Amazon that they are indeed realistic-looking artificial. SMH. DL, Doctor, I bought plastic succulents and watered them for 8 months until my girlfriend noticed they were plastic. Tomorrow the police will host a press conference where they will reveal the solution to the world's biggest murder investigation, the 1986 murder of Prime Minister Olof Palme. The police have revealed they have finally found the murder weapon. I have previously written about the news that they claim to have a solution here. Source in Swedish. BBC summary of what we know now. Today, totally unexpected, the police revealed that they have arrested a 40-year-old man in 2004 murder of a 8-year-old and a 56-year-old woman. This was done using the same DNA method as was used to find Ir/ONS. The case is Sweden's second biggest murder investigation, second to the Palme murder. Previous write-up here. Source in Swedish. Edit, the suspect has confessed. Closure after all this time. Swedish source. To say the least, Sweden's true crime community is excited. I'll update this post once we know more. A decade or so ago, date night at a chain restaurant and our young waitress is killing it, sweet and friendly and very efficient. And suddenly something happens and she is visibly shaken and afraid and crying. My wonderful wife goes all mama bear. Sits her down. Finds out what's wrong. And it turns out that this 16-year-old girl is being stalked by a pedophile. Who is in the restaurant at the bar. Leering at her. And my wife knows this jerk. He is a firefighter who comes to her nursing home on calls on occasion. Thinks he is Elvis, greased hair, long leather coat, etc. So my wife flags down the manager. Who calls the police. Who escorts Elvis from the building. And the manager drives the girl home after my wife gives her a hug and tells her to talk to her parents and get a restraining order. Elvis is fired a few weeks later and apparently moves to Thailand. I hope he is in jail there. Chad Daybell, the husband of Lori Daybell, who is currently in police custody related to the disappearance of her 2 kids, has been arrested near his home at around noon June 9. The police executed a search warrant on his home and it was announced a short time later that human remains have been found on his property that have yet to be identified. This is the second major search performed at the Daybell home. Law enforcement removed 43 items from the house during a multi-agency raid on January 3. Officers searched a shed and used metal detectors, probes and rakes to go over several portions of the yard. Tammy Daybell, Chad's first wife, died suddenly at the Salem home in October. Chad and his new wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, are being investigated by the Idaho Attorney General's Office for conspiracy, attempted murder and murder in connection to the death. Lori Daybell's two children, Joshua J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, have been missing since September, and Lori is in the Madison County Jail on 2 counts of desertion and non-support of a dependent child. Edit, correction to the title. Chad has been taken into custody for questioning, but not arrested or charged. Edit 2, charges are now pending according to a Rexburg, Idaho police news release. This is probably going to be really poorly written, but I've got a short attention span and about an hour to write this, so I am M/13 and I think I look it, and I'm also a metalhead. I deliver papers for my neighbors every day and typically had no issues, but that changed for a couple of weeks. Now that's out of the way, onto the story. So basically I was picking the papers up like I always do when I bumped into a large middle-aged man. At first he was relatively polite about it, until he saw my shirt. It was a Slipknot shirt and there was nothing particularly satanic about it, however I'm guessing he'd heard of them and thought of them as a satanic band. He shot me a dirty look and walked out of the store, so I thought nothing of it. However, when I walked out of the shop, the man cornered me and grabbed me by the shoulder. "Do you worship the devil?" He grunts into my face. I replied that I didn't and shoved past him. Every day for a week, he cornered me and questioned me / tried to convert me. Until one day a shop assistant who had gone to get a delivery yelled at him to leave me alone and the old guy walked away. I have seen him a couple of times since then but never spoken. I spoke to a couple of local friends about it and apparently he has approached numerous kids for any clothing that seemed in any way satanic, goth, metalhead, revealing, and berated them, sometimes to the point of tears. I hope that parents and or authorities catch on to him before he attacks any more kids, and, Reverend Creep, let's never meet again. At the time Aj, 18M, had just quit my job. I left because I had made the mistake of working with my so. We dated for 2 years and when she left me I was devastated. I had stayed home for college while all of my friends left, just for her. I really thought she was the one but I was young and ignorant. Fast forward 2 months and I'm on top of the world. I got a new job, was moving to an out-of-state college in a few months, and I couldn't care less about my ex. First day of my new job, the supervisor is teaching me the basics of what I am doing. As he is teaching me, I can feel my phone vibrating in my pocket over and over again. I didn't want to be unprofessional my first day on the job, so I waited till lunch. Lunch comes around and I look in my phone. There were dozens of calls and texts from my parents. I immediately called my mom back thinking there was something horribly wrong, like a family emergency. My mom continues to yell over the phone at me asking stuff like, "Are you okay? And do we need to get you help?" I was so confused just telling her I was fine and had no idea what was going on. She tells me to open my email. I open it and there's a forwarded email from my mom. The email name was some fake name. The subject to the parent or legal guardian of me. Inside the email was one video. I open it still on the phone with my mom. It was a video of me snorting some illegal paraphernalia. Not even kidding, I had even tried pinching myself thinking I was in a bad dream. My parents were livid, wanting to send me to rehab and military school. But all I could think about was who could have done this? How did they get the video? What else could they have? My mind was racing thinking about anyone I had wronged in the past. I never could think of anyone that would do something like this. My life just did a complete 180. I talked to my parents, gained their trust back and still made it to college with my best friends. A whole year passed, I forgot about the incident mostly and never thought much of it. Then I visited home and my ex's best friend contacts me for coffee. I agree and meet with her. She finally tells me that it was my ex who had sent the video. I'm not dumb either, all my friends said that it had to be her but no one had proof and I truly believed she would have never done this. My ex had even told me to my face that it wasn't her. I couldn't believe it but there was nothing to be done. I wanted everyone to know how manipulative and psychotic she was but all I could do is just go on and hope karma catches up to her. DLDRX sent a vid of me doing drugs to my mom and I didn't find out who did it for a whole year. Also first post and not the best storyteller, sorry. This was last quarter. The players are me, Professor, and my class. This is in an upper division Shakespeare class at my university. Basically, I kept raising my hand to answer questions because without that engagement I tend to lose concentration in class. This works out well for my classmates because none of them ever seem to want to answer anything or generally engage with the class. At some point, my professor singled me out and said, "Zombio fun, stop raising your hand so classmates can answer questions too." Alright, I think, not a big deal I guess. I diligently refrain from engaging in the class as best I can. This works out swimmingly for my professor, who is now asking questions to a crowd of bored college students that had been using me a crutch to not engage in the class. Getting anything answered is now a chore for the professor. She deals with the drudgery of an unreceptive class for all of 15 minutes before she breaks and says, "Zombio fun, do you have an answer? You always want to talk." "No, I'm good," I say, fully upset that she told me to shove it and came crawling back to me so quickly. There isn't much more to the story. She realized her error and had to deal with not having a student regularly respond to her calls for the rest of the class period. Needless to say, she made sure not to shoot me down for the remainder of the quarter. Literally moments ago, I was weed whacking while my partner was mowing. The neighbor girl, who's all of 6, came over to say hi. So I stopped and talked to her for a while. "You know, your dress is pretty and I like your shoes." She eventually ran back to around her house and I continued. I was on the front of the house when I heard a small hey. So I stopped and the neighbor girl was standing in my driveway. I said hi and asked her if she needed something. She held out a flower, and I was touched. "How sweet." I told her thank you, and placed the flower in my hair. She then asked me if I was a pirate. We have a pirate flag flying on our flag post. I asked if she could keep a secret, and told her yes, I was a pirate. She then lights up. She looks so happy. And then she say, "Can you kill me, brother?" I lost it. I couldn't stop laughing. I told her no, I'm not that type of pirate. Just then her brother yelled that it's time for dinner and she ran back home. TL, Doctor, I told the neighbor girl I was a pirate. She immediately asked me to kill her brother. This happened like 10 months ago. It came to my mind today and thought it belongs here. Some background: I work as an IT consultant in a non-technical department. I alone help implement the softwares in the department that are decided by the management and are used company-wide, 1,000 plus employees. I have a lot of responsibilities, from developing feasibility to providing support and training after implementation. We get a new team lead and he has not been fitting in well and has made blunders. After 6 months of his joining, he calls me and says I have few tasks pending on my end. I tell him I'm working on them but have been occupied lately with the bugs of system and support, providing a loan. He says that's nothing and barely 2 or 3 users get it and would take no more than 1 hour daily. He continues and tells me that if I focus then I'll do those other tasks assigned to me in 2 days. I think it's pointless to argue and say okay. Cue malicious compliance. I then start copying him in every mail and I deal with tons of emails every day and issues that require my urgent attention and intervention. And not a couple of days go by and he comes to me and starts ranting how his inbox is getting spammed by me daily, how it's a hassle for him to clean it every day and he didn't know I get so many emails every day. I say nothing and am smiling inside. Since that day he hasn't bothered me about not doing my assignments on time. You know how in a lot of RPGs you can just press a button to skip the dialogue of the non-player characters? It's a great feature if you've played the game before and just want to get to the point, or if you don't care about what they're saying/read ahead of the voice recording, or any number of reasons. You can't do that in real life. That's extremely rude to just start talking or asking your next question when the other person is still responding. This takes me to today. Speaking with someone that needs to follow some steps on their account to verify it, I try to provide detailed descriptions of our website, especially for those that need more help than others with computers. This customer had already expressed her frustrations with not being able to use our service and didn't know why. No worries, just need to verify her account, have her upload some documents, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so first you'll need to go to I'm logged into my account already. Great, now can you go to your I'm in my settings now. What? Actually I'll need you to go back to fine, I'm back to the last page now. Where? Okay lady, listen here, I'm gonna tell you where, just stop cutting me off. Well, as I was about to say, click on Resolve Resolve account verification? Yes. I'm already there now. What? Click up. Upload documents? This went on for the entire 20-minute call. I get some people are in a hurry and I try to match their pace, but please let me get 2 words out or finish a thought before you cut me off. Even the closing of the call was like I was just a robot to her. H, okay, that's it then? M, yes, that's a. Click. Okay, bye. So, one of our sales reps called into support today stating customer X has a phone not working, please fix that now. Ahem. 1. We normally need a ticket for anything. He didn't create one. Okay, I will accept that, I can make one on the fly. 2. For any issue on customer premises, we need contact with the customer. The sales rep is not on site, he just got a call from the customer. So, instead of telling the customer to call us, which would be the normal procedure, this sales rep is just at some random place, got a call from that customer, and then calls us to tell us to call this customer and just fix it. I set up the system to allow password retrieval, so all that's needed now is for the customer to reset the phone so it retrieves its settings anew. Pretty basic, and since there is zero information about the issue from the sales rep, all I can do. I tell this to the sales rep, and tell him to call the customer to reset his phone. Just 3 minutes later this sales rep is back on my line. Obviously he was hoping for another guy to try this help customer X now play again, but since he got me, he was out of luck. So just claimed that in 3 minutes time he had called the customer, had him reset the phone had booted, and he called back into us. He hadn't, a reset takes around 5 minutes for the phone itself. So, I tell him that if he did and it still didn't work, he should inform the customer to call us directly. You could hear him not being happy by actually being told to follow procedure, which in the end would be better for him, us, and the customer, and the call ends. 4 hours later I see a ticket coming in from this sales rep. Customer X has a phone that isn't working, fix it. // I've been pretty weird for a long time now, but I'm pretty sure I'm approaching weirdness levels to where I probably shouldn't be able to leave the house or be seen by other people. So to start off, I'm not a skinny guy as the username can probably tell you. I've been working on it though, which kinda caused the issue. My hip kinda hurt last night after attempting to exercise, and no matter how I sat in my chair it just kept getting worse. I always take my lunch and break at the last hour of the day so that I can relax my mind and let go of the stress of the day and not take it home with me. I didn't really feel like walking to the break room with my leg hurting and stuff, so I decided to just stay at my desk, but in my chair, I was just aggravating my leg, so I decided to lay on the floor under my desk. I work a third shift desk job with pretty large cubicles. The managers are pretty lax, so for the sake of comfort we're allowed to sit with the lights lowered, and with COVID we're also separated pretty far from each other. I'm also in the farthest corner of the room from everyone else with just one person across from me. I thought this was more than enough camouflage that nobody would notice if I just chillaxed on the floor under my desk. Now of course I thought they might think it was weird that I'm laying on the floor, which is why I went through all the trouble of making sure no one saw me lay on the floor. Side note, that floor is way more comfortable than it has any reason to be. We work with sensitive materials, so we're not allowed to have cell phones out. I'm a rebel, but I still want to keep my job, so I didn't have my phone out on the floor, instead was just vibing to some music while laying on the floor and passively keeping time to make sure I don't go over my lunch. Of course, that means that there wasn't any light coming from me on the ground. About 15 minutes and I feel a soft touch on my side, and there's one of the managers coming in to check on me to make sure everything was okay. Then my other manager texts me after we leave to make sure I'm okay because I apparently scared everyone by laying on the ground. Of course, it didn't occur to me that they might think the fat guy is dead on the ground. I think I give up. DL, Doctor, my managers thought I was dead under my desk because I don't make good choices. This actually started roughly a year ago. I got a new phone and decided, hey, maybe it would be a silly and fun personal challenge to never clear my Google tabs for as long as possible. It originally started because I wanted the D icon that appeared after you hit 100 tabs, but crazed me needed more. I continued to never clear my tabs until, about an hour ago, I went to Google something and was given a notice. There is unusual traffic coming from your network. Huh? I quickly thought through everything I've done online in the past few hours, assuming maybe it's a virus. The ever-wise me was Googling a lot about John Titor and his general topic, and came across a suspicious website to which I quickly backed out. But the rest of my phone seems fine, why would only Google be acting funny? I go into my tabs section, and discover the typical early 2000s CD collection case that was my Google searches. Thousands of tabs. That is not an exaggeration. I select to clear, and the app chokes for a moment, before blanking the tab section and displaying at the bottom. 3,175 tabs cleared. Amazed, I back out in hopes this solved my issue. It didn't. I go back and see that all my tabs are still intact, so it seems. So I undertake the painful mission of deleting all, or most of these tabs, manually. Swiping left for what felt like an eternity, until finally I got sick of it and clicked the delete tabs option again. This time, it cleared somewhere around 2,000 and some change. Impressive. I return to Google and run my test of Googling something simple to see if I get the message. I type lemons into the search bar. It searches, and pulls up the beautiful page of citrus. No message. My tabs are clear. My life is back in order. And hopefully, it's not actually a virus. TLDR, I decided not to clear my Google tabs for almost a year and subsequently thought I had a virus when really I just had too many tabs. I've been using benzoyl peroxide for almost a year now in order to keep my oily, acne-prone nose under check. And everything was fine until last night, when I, after waiting an hour for it to dry up, started dubbing moisturizer on my face. I saw a tiny pimple under my right eye and, for God knows reason why, I spread a little bit of moisturizer from my nose to it. Like, it helps. Today I woke up to a swelled up right eye, as if someone had punched me in a street fight. Apparently, as I've found out just now, not only benzoyl peroxide shouldn't be ever applied around eyes, skin is too delicate, it will cause serious irritation, rashes and stuff, but it migrates through the moisturizing creams. DL, doctor, I swelled up my eye by accidentally putting acne treatment chemical under it. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. This is unfolding right now actually. I've had dogs for 20+ years. Numerous different dogs. Never once have I had what is happening now happen to me. Last night I come walking up the stairs to my living room and my 75-pound mutt just goes full attack mode. No warning. Just comes charging at me at full speed, barking, teeth showing, hair raised. I back up slowly, knowing running would most certainly mean I'm going to be taken down. All that is going through my head is that this is really going to hurt. Backed into the kitchen and I just start tossing what I can find to get him to back down. Bowls, silverware, cans of food. Luckily my wife came running and jumped on him from behind. Was hoping this was some one-off weird thing. He has never been violent or anything even remotely like it. Heck, the kids tug and pull on him and he doesn't care. But again today, if I just go near him he starts again. Not sure what I am going to do. The only explanation is that I got a haircut few days ago. Went from hair to my shoulders to a full buzz cut. Nothing else has changed. All I can come up is that he doesn't recognize me. Hopefully it gets better, otherwise unfortunately I'm going to have to put him down. DL, doctor, got a haircut and now my dog doesn't know who I am and is continually trying to attack me with full force. I realize this is more specific to women of a certain generation and that times have changed, but the amount of calls I get from folks who have zero clue about any of their accounts is staggering. Just got off the phone with a poor woman who had no idea what any of the validation information was, no email or anything, and couldn't pass the credit check verification because her husband had her co-signed on all their accounts but she didn't know anything about what bank the car loan was through, things like that. So now there's this 80-something lady who can find out what her account balance is because she's never been involved in any aspect of her financial life. If I can't verify you, I can't help you. Please folks, be involved. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the EMTs got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. We only did about 100 people but I believe that was expected. My boss had us heavily staffed but that was just in case. Our systems only allow us to sell up to 35% capacity as well. Every single second after dealing with a customer, we were cleaning up and wiping down everything again, and once they'd leave the theater, we'd wipe down their seat. It felt so good to be back in that theater to the point that I was very loud and just too excited to be there. After 4 months of being closed, it feels good to be back. A bit of a macabre game, I mean no disrespect to the victims of horrific crimes. Think of this like the trolley problem thought experiment. Pick your top 3 unsolved cases. Now select one of these scenarios. 1. You learn the killer's identity in all 3 cases, but no other details. You may be able to get police to listen to you, and depending on the case, it may result in a conviction, but this is not guaranteed. It depends on whether the police can support this with evidence. 2. You pick 2 of the cases and can watch the events of murder, like a ghost. You cannot touch anything or change anything. You may gain insight into where new evidence can be found, you may not. You will need to convince police to follow your lead without implicating yourself. 3. You pick one of the cases and you are granted a key piece of evidence linking the killers to the murder. You can take this to police, but you may need to explain how you came into possession of the item. This item could be anything, including a random hair, which, in your hands, is not helpful. On the other hand, it could be a gun with fingerprints and blood on it. 4. You pick one of the cases and you are placed within 50 meters of the crime scene 10 minutes prior to the initial encounter. You can do whatever you want, but you will be accountable as you are caught doing whatever it is you decide to do. If the killers meet the victim at a bar, you would be placed near there. If the killers know the victim and attack in the middle of the night in their own home, you will be placed in the vicinity of the home 10 minutes before the first strike. You are wearing your current clothes but have no other possessions, no cell phone. 5. You pick 2 cases and are given a bullet point breakdown of the events. However, it is now guaranteed that no one will ever be charged for the crime. Justice will never be served. Which cases are you picking? What scenario are you picking? Explain why. On July 25, 1988, in the village of Amelia, Zgierz County in central Poland, a young man was hit by the Polonne's car and died afterwards of injuries. He's been never identified. He was about 25 years old, 173 centimeters tall, weighing 66 kilograms, slim. He was wearing navy blue, handmade sweater, navy blue trousers and brown jacket. He had blonde hair and red, well-cared beard. Also, the autopsy showed that a few weeks earlier he went through operation of hernia. No documents were found in his pockets. Police only secured 3 keys on a steel circle. On one of them phrase RSM Torun was engraved. The word is a name of a city in northern Poland. Meaning of letters is unknown. Currently Polish police is asking for help in the internet, counting on the possibilities given by advancement of DNA examining technology. Photos here. Tifu by drinking my mom's oju. Tifu by drinking my mom's oju. Stopped my mom's after work to pick up my dog who she watches when I work long shifts. He gets along well with her two dogs and grandma loves to spoil him like he's her grandson. I saw she had a saucepan of beef au jus left on the stovetop. I love the stuff and haven't had a good French dip or au jus since she used to make it for me as a kid. I poured what was left in the saucepan into a bowl and drank it. When I was done, I met her in her office and told her sorry but I saw the au jus on the stovetop and couldn't help myself. I drank most of it. She began giggling so hard she began to turn purple. She allowed herself to breathe, and pointed at my dog, and her two dogs. All three were happily gnawing on rawhide bones. That wasn't au jus. I boiled treats and rawhides in beef broth as an extra special treat for the dogs. TLDR, I drank au jus that was actually beef broth with rawhides boiled in it. Doctor, I was annoyed the car behind me road raged at me for not racing a yellow light. Didn't turn right till the light turned green and he was forced to drive 10 miles per hour for a while afterwards. When I was in college I parked in a parking lot off a small brick road. It was in this area called Little Italy and the entire area had a maze of brick paved roads. Almost all of them were small roads that were either one-ways or tiny, barely two-way streets. If you've ever driven on brick roads that are older and not smoothed out, it's like the bumpiest thunk-thunk for your butt if you're going any faster than 15 to 20 miles per hour. Naturally, the speed limit was 25 miles per hour. One afternoon I pulled out of the parking lot and began slowly heading towards the intersection where I needed to turn right. As I'm going, with about 1,000 feet/300 meters left to the light, it turns yellow. I've driven this road literally thousands of times by this point and so I know the yellow is a pretty quick one so I continue at my turtle speed. I have no plans to race this yellow light. Behind me all of a sudden, I notice a BMW hurtle down the road like it was in its final lap of a NASCAR race. It was farther in distance from me, than I had to the light. And yet, it began honking. That BMW began honking as if its very life rested on how many times it could honk before it got to me. To this day I've never seen anyone drive down that road so fast, and with good reason. The BMW was bouncing up and down as it raced towards me. I'm no car person but I'm pretty sure it was damaging something as it clanked and groaned its way down the road. Unfortunately for Mr. BMW, the light had turned red before I ever got to the light. This in turn meant that he also got stuck at the red light. And then he began wildly gesticulating, and I assume swearing. I didn't really care for the way he had been honking at me and I really wasn't a fan of his hand gestures at me so I cheerfully flipped my right THRN signal on. There was only one car going on the green light and then there were absolutely no cars at the intersection. I was perfectly within rights to turn right on red. But I chose to wait out the entire darn red light with my right turn blinker happily blinking away. Mr. BMW stuck his hand out the window to flip me off more violently. I waited patiently for the green light. And then the very best part was that when I turned right, he turned right too. Such gleeful joy, ha 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 ha. He ended up having to follow me for another mile or so up a hill as I went 10 miles per hour the entire way. One-lane roads are just the best. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his two sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. It might have been 12:30 this morning. 20am, go on OkCupid and start swiping, nothing out of the ordinary, when I come across this semi-attractive white woman who's close to my age. She simply suggests we move over to Google Hangouts. Okay, not a problem. So I get her email, it's her by the looks of the profile pic, and begin chatting. Unfortunately, I was stupid enough to take her up, after hesitation, on a nude video chat. It's 1:30 am now, and I'm nervous. Every instinct is telling me not to participate. But I do. So, she hangs up because I'm not doing anything because I'm nervous, and I call her back and show her my genitalia. She's doing what she's doing and I find out that she's recording me. Then, she shows me the video and I'm confused at first, but then realize what's happening. She hangs up. She messages me Facebook friend names and my workplace, as well as family members. I'm pretty freaked out at this point. She's sending me screenshots of messages with said video and pictures of messages ready to send to my mom. Anyway, I ask her what she wants and she says something about needing $300 for her sister's surgery. I stall. Then I call the non-emergency police because a website told me that's the best course of action. All the while she's spamming me and calling me on Hangouts. Eventually, the police officer finishes my report and essentially says don't do that ever again. Well, I delete all my connected profiles, Facebook, Instagram, OkCupid, etc., and hope for the best. DL, Doctor, I'm a dumbass who went on a consensual nude video chat with a random woman who recorded me and threatened to send my video to all my Facebook friends. Now my mom, stepmom, and grandparents might see me naked. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. Okay, so this happened back in early February. I'm just remembering it now after suppressing it for all these months. My husband, his sister and her husband and myself were up near the casket greeting everyone for the viewing. This meant we were meeting so many people we didn't know, and I have really bad social anxiety, so I took some Xanax to try and help beforehand. Over 100 people easily came out. Somewhere towards the end, this little old guy and I'm assuming his wife came up to us. We said our hellos and greeted them, to which the man responded by raising his hand, as one does with a high five. I didn't think, I just reacted and high-fived this stranger in front of my husband, and Lord knows who else. Hubby, Sil and her husband crack up after the man had left, absolutely dumbfounded I'm sure. Now I realize he was just waving. Why I'm like this I got no clue. DL, Doctor, I high-fived a poor old man pretty much over my dead uncle-in-law's body who was only waving at me, woman face-palming. So where I work, it is a multi-store ownership. Our other store sells things like plywood etc. Oftentimes, our store becomes a middleman for the other store, which is a pain. A lot of people like our services because our other store only charges $5 for delivery. Same price to pick something up if they wish to return it. So I had a guy phone, saying he bought plywood from our other store, but didn't use it all, and asked if he could have the other store come pick it up. I told him yes, it would be no trouble, but there was the $5 charge that would be deducted from his return. He says that's outrageous. I see your trucks drive by all the time. It's not gonna take much for him to just come and get the plywood. I told him that it's what our owner said is policy. And that it's not that simple. If he has other orders on his truck, he has to make sure there is room for the plywood. Plus, he has to make sure it is properly strapped down and secured. All that takes time and money, So that is why we have to charge the $5. He says I'm not paying $5 for that. That is outrageous. I told him he can drop it off here at the store itself, and he would get the full refund back. He goes fine. I'll do that. And he promptly hung up. I saw him a little later returning the plywood. Not to be insulting, but he looked like your typical cranky old guy who had a permanent frown on his face. My mom told me this story recently. When I was 2 and my sister was 4, my mom took us to the movie theater at the local mall to see the Barney movie. It was during the day and the movie theater was fairly empty, just 1 or 2 other parents and their kids. My mom also noticed a man sitting alone in the theater, several rows up from us. We were watching the movie, me sitting on my mom's lap, and my sister sitting beside her. My mom was super weirded out by this man. Like who comes to watch the Barney movie without a kid? She was keeping an eye on him and so she noticed when he got up, switched seats and moved closer to us. After a little bit of time, he did it again. That was her flip this, I'm out moment. She grabbed us both, told us that the movie was over, and left. On her way out she tried to find a theater employee to talk to but didn't see one around and was in a rush to leave. Once she got everyone home safely she called her best friend and told her all about it. A day or 2 later, her friend was watching the news when a story came on about a man who had been frequenting malls in my town and trying to lure children away. No way to know if it's the same person but terrifying if it was, creepy anyways if not. So, creepy middle-aged Barney fan, let's not meet. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of you 11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. I was reminded of this story from when I was younger and decided to tell it. When I was about 12, I was at a friend's house. Her parents were going out and she didn't want to be alone, so we walked down the street back to my house. As we got closer to my house, we noticed a large SUV, running in my driveway, but with the lights off. She asked if I knew who it was. I did not. With her parents not being home, we continued to my house and noticed a man in dark clothing, holding a flashlight and shining it into some windows at the side of the house. For some reason, we weren't scared, we just thought it was weird. I thought maybe it was someone looking for my mom or dad. Wanting to be sure, we waited until we were certain the guy had gone around back and we got into the house through a side door in the garage as quietly as we could. We locked the doors, just to be safe, and the first thing I did was grab the phone to call my mom. She didn't pick up. I called my dad, and he answered. I said, paraphrased, of course, Dad, are you expecting someone at the house? No. Why? He responded, obviously confused. That's about when I started to get nervous. Is Mom? I don't think so. Why? Is someone at the house? I explained the SUV in the driveway and the flashlight and how we ran inside to call him. Okay, I'm on my way. I will be there in 5 minutes and I'm calling the cops. My dad said, obviously trying to remain calm. When we hung up, my friend stayed at the kitchen table, obviously super nervous. I went to our front window which faced the driveway to check and see if the car was still there. I opened the curtain, and there he was, staring directly into the window, right at me. He was so close that, had the glass not divided us, he could have grabbed me. My stomach completely dropped and froze. This man held my gaze for way too long, and just as casual as anyone could be, he turned around, quickly got into his car and drove off. And that was it. Naturally, we stopped hanging out at my house alone after that. I've been in a lot of scary and uncomfortable situations, but opening my curtain to that man on the other side is to this day one of the most terrifying things I have ever witnessed. It's going to be a little short. Backstory: a few months before quarantine I went to a festival with my parents cause it was fun. I was playing around by myself then I spotted my teacher. I was embarrassed so I didn't want to talk to her, So I played for a few minuets, then I saw her with a random guy kissing and drunk, super drunk. They went away for 10 to 15 minuets, then they come back for a few minuets and it repeats. The FU, I was with her on a Zoom meeting today and I thought I was muted while I was talking to my mom. Then I said, "Mom, she is the one who cheated on her husband, should I tell her to flip off?" My mom said, "No, don't, she'll complain in the parent meeting conference that's online, leave it, it's none of your business anyway." I tell my mom that if she is sure, she says yes, then I realize that my mic wasn't off, I turned it off and ran. She said she'll tell my mom that I wasn't listening to her. I know she would kill me if I didn't listen to her, but I acted confident that she won't. I really FU. DL, doctor, I told my teacher to F off and to my whole class that she is cheating on her husband on accident. I am pretty sure I know the answer to the mystery of the glitter. Key phrases I honed in on. The most popular glitter color by far is silver. You wouldn't know by looking at it that it is indeed glitter. It's wrappers. Mainly candy bar wrappers and bags for potato chips and such. The plastic shiny wrappers that are metallic looking. It's just unprocessed glitter. They make millions and millions of wrappers for products like these, every day. You'd never know it was glitter, because the packaging is intact, and the glitter is essentially just left in sheets to be printed on. But it's plastic coated, silvery metallic inside. The most popular glitter being sold is silver, and is a never-ending stream of revenue for the glitter industry, because candy and snacks are a huge industry in their own right. The companies don't want anyone to know it's glitter because glitter has such a bad rap environmentally, and these methods of packaging are getting tossed away in trash bins and, sadly, on the ground and out of car windows. The snack industry is massive and would take a huge hit if this got out that they were contributing the largest to the glitter industry when everyone's trying to limit their consumption of craft glitter to try and make biodegradable glitter. But this industry has already tried this, with those super crinkly biodegradable Sun Chips bags they made about a decade ago that people complained about. Those got 86'd and now we're back to the sheets of glitter being printed on and made into packaging. So yeah. Pick up a Snickers bar or some Lay's potato chips and inspect the packaging, particularly the inside. That's just sheets of glitter, friends. Most popular candy bars. Stats for sold candy bar brands. Stats for sold potato chip brands. Crinkly biodegradable potato chip bags that wound up getting mixed for being too loud. Didn't happen today, but I got a good laugh out of my family when I told them this. The recess bell had just rung, and the teacher instructed everyone to submit their assignments on the desk before going out of the class. I along with a few others hadn't done the assignment, and all of us went to her and blurted out our excuses. I said I was at my dad's birthday party last night, and we got home late and I had no time left for the homework. The others proceeded after me to tell their reasons while I proceeded to grab my wallet out of my bag and started moving out of the class. While doing so, I heard my teacher scolding someone, saying that having no time is not a good enough excuse for someone in high school. I laughed to myself that I got away with the same excuse without as much as a frown from the teacher. I looked over my shoulder and saw her frowning at the other guy and raising her voice further, and I thought it'd be best to get out before she gets to me after him, and I start fast walking my way out of the class, when I hear a loud angry woman voice calling behind me, screaming my name and saying, "Get back here, and look at me while I'm talking to you, how dare you walk off like that?" I look back and see this lady now fully turned towards me, with her good eye staring into my soul. Worth mentioning, she has a wandering left eye, and I happen to be standing on her left. Looking at the left side of her face, thinking that her eye was looking sideways at the other guy. I got reported for disrespectful behavior, but I told the principal what had happened, and she laughed the whole thing off. DL, doctor, casually walked off thinking the teacher was scolding someone else, then realized she has a wandering eye and was actually talking to me. They opened the investigation back up after the Tiger King show premiered. Interested to see what they find after 20 years of cover-up. Also, if it goes 10 more years she won't be bailed to be convicted of it anymore. And get this, she was also awarded the zoo recently. Carol Baskin, whose long-standing feud with Joe Exotic was chronicled in the hit Netflix docuseries Tiger King, has been awarded the zoo once owned by her nemesis. A judge ruled in favor of Baskin's Big Cat Rescue Corporation Monday in a lawsuit against the Greater Wynwood Development Group, LLC. The latter company once was owned by Exotic, whose real name is Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage. The order gives Baskin control of about 16 acres of land in Garvin County, Oklahoma, that is home to an animal park with an array of big cats. GWDC must vacate the Zooland premises within 120 days of service of this order. Vacation of premises shall also require removal of all zoo animals from the Zooland, the court order said. The judgment also awarded several cabins and vehicles to Baskin, according to court records. Baskin, who owns an animal sanctuary in Florida, had for years been a vocal critic of Maldonado Passage's Animal Park, a feud that escalated into a court battle. Maldonado Passage argued that Baskin was trying to destroy his business with an online smear campaign and videos she posted to her YouTube page and social media channels. Meanwhile, Baskin argued that Exotic was abusing his animals and crusaded against his use of tigers for profit. He was convicted last year in a murder-for-hire plot against Baskin and is serving a 22-year sentence for the hit attempt and other crimes that include animal abuse. Carol Baskin's day of reckoning is coming after a sheriff determined the will of her ex-husband, Don Lewis, was a forgery. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer: excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager: I'm sorry love, what do you want? C: I'm not your love. Stares. BM: I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C: I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM: I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C: Well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM: I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C: For free? BM: Sorry, I can't do them for free. C: Why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM: I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C: Of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM: You can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C: Fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM: Why not? C: Because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM: Well, everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C: Well, I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM: Well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C: Are you kidding? Flip you. BM: Flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting followed by the bouncer escorting her out. Excerpt from a short story, but it's also a true story and I thought it was appropriate to share here. This was around a year ago now. I was working the drive-thru of a popular fast food chain. Because it was the only one of its brand in my town, we were busy, and had been for a while now. One vehicle after the other in an endless chain. My job was monotonous and rhythmic: take the customer's money, give them their product, rinse and repeat. Around comes one of our regulars, one of the not-so-savory ones at that. An old, loud truck for a man with old, loud opinions. I'm attempting to complete his transaction as fast as I can, so he'll drive away before he can say anything to me that I'll regret hearing. But, I am too late. As he takes his coffee out of my hand, he gives me his crooked-toothed grin, jerks his thumb towards the back of his truck, and says, "Take a look at this idiot. Watch this." I peer behind his tailgate, just in time for him to rev his engine and send a cloud of thick, black smog into the face of an old man who decided to take the drive-thru in nothing but his wheeled scooter. I'm too stunned to say anything to the regular before he drives away, with more smog blasting out of his exhaust pipe as he speeds towards the road. After that fiasco, I decided I'd be kind to the old man. I am normally smiling and polite during my job, but I figured I could bring it up a notch for the troubles he's been through already. I bring up his order, and wait for him to wheel his way up to the window. I'm smiling for him when he gets there. "Hello," he says to me, holding up the $2 coin that would cover his purchases for the day. I laugh with him, ready to complete his transaction, making a comment about the adventures he's been on today. I'm happy to see him smiling, after being stuck behind the regular's truck in that long drive-through line. Then, I feel a push from behind me. It's one of my supervisors, one that I don't quite get along with. She moves me aside and leans out the window. "You can't do that, sir. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is dangerous, you're not supposed to." And she lays into him. From under her arm, I can see the old man's face fall. It crumples. His shoulders falling, too. He nods quietly, and my supervisor thrusts his coffee into his hands, and points him out of the drive-through lane. For the rest of my shift, and the rest of my day, I can only think about him. He waited in the drive-through line behind the rude regular, endured how many puffs of exhaust, probably just to put a smile on a worker's face. Then, he's ridiculed and lectured. Beaten down. I never saw him again, but to this day, I can't get the image of his face falling under my supervisor's arm. It was as if I saw his faith, his drive to make people smile, his good humor, all of it leave him. And it breaks my heart all over again.